There is one thing champions do that separates them from everyone else. I'll be back in 20 seconds to tell you what it is and how to make it work for you. So stick around. Okay, welcome gamers to preseason training day 12 inside the extraordinary game of entrepreneurship and how to play it. My name is Chris Allen-White. I am the game master, and my role here today is to disrupt your thinking in order to empower you to live outside your phone booth so that you can share your extraordinary with the world. Now, you may be asking yourself, what the heck does living outside your phone booth have to do with anything? Well, just ask yourself this question. What would have happened had this guy, Superman, never gotten out of the phone booth? I mean, literally, what would have happened? Exactly. Nothing would have happened. And that's why living outside of your phone booth every day is priority number one. And so if you're ready, my friend, then I'm ready. Game on. Okay, my friends, today we are talking about the idea that champions make do or die commitments. Now, my main driving objective today is to empower you to raise your level of consciousness around the difference between how amateurs make commitments and how champions make commitments. Okay, so let me open my thoughts here with the question for you to wrestle with a few questions. Okay, number one, what does the concept of commitment mean to you? Number two, what role does commitment play in a person's quest for success? And then number three, how committed have you been to achieving the goals inside your business? Okay, now consider this as you're wrestling with those questions. What if I told you the only thing standing between you and your ability to achieve everything you want to achieve in your business is this word, commitment? Imagine with me for a second that we're in the Grand Canyon together, okay, and we're standing at the edge of a cliff and your success is across the canyon. In fact, we can see your success. Okay, the challenge is there's this canyon in between us. Now, I want you to imagine that your commitment represents the bridge that's going to get us from where we are now to your success. And without commitment, there is no bridge. And guess what? Without a bridge, there is no success. Okay, so as you're imagining that, let's define commitment so that we're all together on the same page here. Okay, so commitment is simply an obligation that restricts freedom of action. An obligation that restricts freedom of action. In other words, in a few other words for commitment that you're probably familiar with are, loyalty is a word for commitment, and faithfulness is another word for commitment. So what if I told you the only thing standing between you and your ability to achieve everything you want to achieve in your business is a commitment? My friends, if we could only use one word to define a champion, it would be this word. It would be the word commitment. So how do you respond in the battle of building your business when you're tired, when you're exhausted, when you're burned out? Here's what I'm encouraging you to really consider the next time you get to this place in your business, the next time that you're tired, the next time you're exhausted and burned out. I want you to consider the fact that champions are just getting warmed up. Okay, now hear me out on this. I'm not arguing that champions don't fatigue. Champions absolutely fatigue. Okay, champions are human too. The difference is that champions are committed to their dreams. That's the difference. Champions have made the commitment, and therefore, by definition, they have willfully chosen to restrict freedom of action. Champions willfully choose to restrict freedom of action. So the action the amateur takes when he's tired, exhausted, and burned out is to retreat, to quit, to change course onto a path that faces him with less resistance. Now get this, because the champion has made a do-or-die commitment, retreating, quitting, or changing course onto a path that faces him with less resistance, those are not options. Did you get that? They are not options. Quite literally, they're not options. Because the champion has chosen to willfully restrict his own freedom to make that choice. You see, what I'm attempting to drive deep into your mind here is that when you make a commitment, you are making the choice to give up your freedom in order to gain more freedom down the road. You're making the choice now to give up your freedom in order to get more freedom down the road. Okay, it's so important that you get this. When you make a real commitment, and I'm highlighting the word real commitment, you are making the choice to give up your freedom in order to gain more freedom. Okay, so that's a glimpse into the mental toughness of a champion. Let's contrast that with the mental weakness of an amateur. Okay, amateurs believe it would be nice to achieve their goals. Nice. As long as it doesn't get too uncomfortable or too painful. Okay, amateurs believe commitments can be flexible. Amateurs believe commitments can be broken. Amateurs believe commitments are about doing the best you can, right? An amateur will make a commitment and then quit on himself and go, well, I did the best I can. That's what an amateur thinks about commitment. Now consider champions. Champions don't recognize pain because champions have made the commitment to do what it takes to win, right? Champions don't believe a commitment, compared to amateurs, champions believe that a commitment is an ironclad, rock-solid promise to deliver. Champions believe commitments must be met or your credibility is ruined, not only with yourself, but with others. Right? Champions believe making a commitment means fulfilling the promise. Fulfilling the what? Fulfilling the promise, no matter what it takes or costs. Do you see the sharp and the clear differences here between average performers, the struggling masses, most people? Do you see the difference between them and champions? I want to encourage you to not be an amateur. I want to encourage you to approach your commitments like a champion, not like a hobby, like amateurs do. I encourage you to approach your commitments even like a battle. Like a battle. You see, when you approach your commitments in this way, you prepare yourself for the battle mentally, right? You equip yourself to know you will be required to endure an unknown level of suffering along the path to victory. Okay, so stop questioning the price of success. That's an amateur mindset. And it will leave you in a perpetual cycle of frustration and unmet expectations. Stop questioning the price of success. And instead, I want to encourage you to start committing to pay whatever price it takes to win. Whatever price. That's the commitment a champion makes. Whatever price. But how much is it going to cost, you might ask? It doesn't matter, says the champion. I'll find the money. But, okay, Chris, how much time is it going to take? Doesn't matter, says the champion. I'll sacrifice as much time as it takes. Okay, Chris, but how difficult is this going to be? Doesn't matter, says the champion. I'll do whatever it takes to figure it out. Okay, Chris, I get it, but you know something? I'm just not good with technology. Doesn't matter, says the champion. I'm not letting that wussy obstacle stand in my way. I'm going around it, I'm going over it, or I'm going through it. Now, what we're talking about here today is the difference between mental strategy. Mental strategy. This is the foundation of being world class. You will never be world class until you make the commitment to be world class. And when you make the commitment to be world class, you are willingly giving up your freedom to get more freedom down the road. Okay, now, here's what I really want to sink in. What do you think the consequences are of breaking commitments in your life? What do you think the consequences are? Here are a few I urge you to strongly consider. Actually, before I share those, most people, when they look at breaking commitments, most times the perspective is on the other person, something outside of them. Like let's say, for example, you made the commitment to go hang out with a friend. And then you decide last minute you're not going to go. Usually your first reaction to that is, oh, man, I feel so bad for my friend. I just bailed on him. I feel bad for that person. You start thinking about that person. Okay, but here's some consequences I urge you to strongly consider. Number one, how does breaking a commitment begin to erode your self-image and your self-respect? Number two, how does breaking a commitment begin to erode your belief in your ability to persist until you succeed? The question is, what's the true cost of breaking your commitment? You know, a lot of people I do strategic coaching sessions will tell me, you know, Chris, I'm committed 100%. But then they question the price that must be paid along the way when things get tough, when adversity shows up. But the next time you find yourself in this position, I encourage you with every ounce of my being to truly, truly, truly consider the true cost of breaking your commitment. What is the true cost? The true cost of breaking your commitment is the destruction of your integrity with yourself, more than any effect it has to do to anyone on the outside. The true cost, right, is the destruction of your integrity with yourself. Did you get that? I mean, did you really get that? Let me say it again. The true cost of breaking your commitment is the destruction of your integrity with yourself more than any effect it has to do with anyone on the outside. Okay. You see, most people, when they're standing on the doorstep of breaking a commitment, they start to feel guilty about the consequences of breaking that commitment, as I mentioned, with respect to what it does to another person. And you know what? When that's your perspective, you're already defeated, because human nature is selfish. You know, as bad as we may feel about what breaking a commitment might do to someone else, it's often not enough to restrict our movements and to encourage us to hold the line on our commitment. So what I'm arguing and what I'm encouraging you to understand here is that the true cost of breaking a commitment is the destruction of your integrity, and that will lead to eroding your self-image. That will lead to eroding your self-respect and your belief in your own ability to persist until you succeed. And those things are important. Valuable, valuable, valuable things in your business. People will always buy the messenger before they buy the message. So if you're eroding your self-respect, your self-image, your belief in your own ability to persist until you succeed, what type of a messenger do you believe you're going to be in the marketplace? Okay? Is anyone really going to be attracted to you if you're someone who's breaking commitments? The fundamental reason that most business owners are struggling and getting nowhere is because of their approach and their thinking around commitment. Okay, so here's your takeaway. I want you to understand that pain is temporary, but self-respect is forever. Understand the idea that your commitment represents your word. And if your word has a shaky reputation, you will be relegated to lower levels of success. And I'm not talking about the reputation of your word with others. I'm talking about the reputation of your word with yourself. Give that some thought. Remember, making a commitment is making a willful decision to restrict your freedom of action. It's willfully surrendering your freedom to get more freedom down the path. Okay, so here's your action step. I want you to make a list. You should actually already have this list inside of your playbook, right? Of the 1 to 3 most important things you're committed to in your business over this season we're going to be playing together. And I want you to ask this critical thinking question. Are my habits, actions, and behaviors congruent with my commitments? Are my habits, my actions, and my behaviors congruent with my commitment? So you can look at the routines you've created. You can look at the tactics you've created to achieve your goals. You can say, are they congruent with what I've committed to do? And then what I want you to do is I want you to fill out a commitment contract. I'll post a link to that contract around this video somewhere. I want you to fill out a commitment contract. And I want you to put a stake in the ground, and I want you to share that commitment contract with us in our private Facebook group. If you're not in the Facebook group yet, I'll put a link to that as well. You can get into the private Facebook group. I want you to give some thought, fill out this commitment contract, and plant your flag in the ground. Take a public stand for the game plan that you're building inside of your playbook. And let us know in the Facebook group you're committed to restricting freedom of movement so that you can increase your freedom down the road. Make this public declaration. You know, the science has proven over and over again that you actually increase your success in achieving your goals. I forget the statistic off the top of my head, but it's quite dramatic. You actually quite dramatically increase your chances of achieving a goal when you make a public declaration of your commitment. This is one of the reasons we often do weddings in public, right? To make that public commitment to our significant other, to our spouse. Okay, so fill out that commitment contract, and I will be back with you tomorrow to continue our adventure together here inside of the extraordinary game of entrepreneurship and how to play it. Until then, my friends, be extraordinary. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the extraordinary game of entrepreneurship and how to play it. And remember, gamers, if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. So get out of your phone booth and go share your extraordinary with the world.